And so live here on Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM. And we start with that developing story that broke in Parliament just about an hour ago. The decision by both sides of the House unanimously repeal the E-Levy and two other taxes. We'll come to the two other taxes pretty shortly. It includes the betting tax, by the way. But it was one of Ghana's most controversial tax policies, a levy that sparked protests, divided Parliament, and forced many to rethink how they use mobile money. But now the E-Levy is no more. We're expecting the President to assent to that particular bill passed by Parliament a short while ago. Parliament has finally abolished that electronic transaction tax, ending 2 years of fierce debate. Emmanuel Jivenu takes us through the rise and fall of the E-Levy.
It all began in November 2021 when the then Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced the electronic transfer levy as part of the 2022 budget.
We brought to Parliament a 1.75% levy. As the Minister has mentioned, this is not the most egregious tax that you could get, but it really leads to the issue of inclusion of all of us to build our society and wherever we really want to go to transform this land.
But almost immediately, the bill was met with fierce opposition.
Banks are affected, telecoms are affected, merchants are affected, consumers of telecom services are affected because their wallets will be taxed. So fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, where we stand, we vote against it.
In February 2022, thousands of Ghanaians took to the street to reject the levy.
So that is why we are out on the street, to deny the government the opportunity to officialize pickpocketing. Anything I want.
Then came one of Ghana's most chaotic nights in Parliament when MPs fiscally fought over the bill. Despite the resistance, the then NPP majority side passed the bill in March 2022 while the NDC staged a walkout.
This side, we don't support E-Levy. We will not support E-Levy. Count us out of it. They can proceed with whatever business they want to do.
As soon as the E-Levy took effect in May 2022, its impact was immediate and severe. Mobile money transactions dropped by over 3 billion cedis in just a few months.
The first quarter of 2022, we've been able to do only 12.9 billion cedis currently. Obviously, we are not getting anything from E-Levy in the first quarter because it wasn't applicable here. E-Levy has been revised to 4.5%.
Even the government admitted it had overestimated how much the levy would generate. The NDC took the fight to the Supreme Court, arguing that the bill was passed unconstitutionally.
We intend to file to question the legitimacy of the decision of less than one half of members of Parliament taking a decision to approve E-Levy as second reading following our walkout.
However, the Supreme Court refused to block the levy, allowing it to continue. With revenue projections failing, the government reduced the tax rate from 1.5% to 1% in January 2023. But for many Ghanaians, the damage was already done. Traders were using cash instead of mobile money.
1.75 now, body rate now.
I'm hoping the percentage will be reduced to 1.0%. The E-Levy would affect our business as mobile money vendors. People will be forced not to transact with us, and that will make us unemployed.
The electronics and the old system
The E-Levy won't help. Those at Parliament fighting for its introduction know what they would gain from it. They are only going to dupe us.
Fast forward to March 2025, Parliament has finally repealed the E-Levy.
We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, E-Levy of 1%.
Across the country, the news was met with celebrations. From mass protests to a controversial passage, economic shocks, and legal battles, the E-Levy experiment has ended. But as Ghana moves forward, the big question remains: how will government fill the revenue gaps? Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News.
And these were reactions we picked up shortly after Parliament approved that decision to repeal the law.
As a Ghanaian, I think the government is being truthful, because before they came to power, they promised all Ghanaians that this is what they are coming to do if they are voted into power, and they have really done that.
I feel so excited because you can imagine if you want to send someone 1,000 Ghana cedis, you can imagine the amount of e-levy they will take. So it is an excited news, and it is also a good initiative that he has implemented. For him to promise and deliver is a good achievement.
It is good that the government has kept its promise or skipped its promise, because it has been the cry of the Ghanaians that e-levy should be scrapped off. And as President Mama said that when he comes, he will scrap off e-levy. I think it is a good news to Ghanaians. And moreover, to
matter of fact, we congratulate him on his good works that he has started doing. He promised and he has delivered it. Anything that has positive effects has its own negative or corresponding negative effects. Let me talk about the negative effects aspect of it. You see, when this policy was implemented, it was really affecting those who are gaining less in the economy, because the little amount that they have and they are sending to probably their parents at the remote areas, the little that they have gotten, and they will be charged upon it. I think it was very appalling.
And I'm waiting to hear from you. Send me a WhatsApp 055-1111-997. If you're just tuning in, breaking story from Parliament, they have repealed the e-levy law. It's no longer in force once the President assents to that particular act. And shortly we'll be getting you clarity when you can expect the President's signature for it to become law, and when you can expect that the next time you make an e-levy transaction, a Momo transaction, you will not be billed for it. My colleague Kofi Ajay joins me in the studio right now. He's been poring over the numbers and implications of this. The e-levy isn't the only tax gone tonight. Which are the two taxes also went?
Also two more, the emissions levy as well as the betting tax. I'm talking about the 10% withholding on winnings also gone, Evans.
Let's break down this e-levy tax, and over the period, how much do we know we raked in?
It wasn't just the most controversial levy, it was also the most promising levy, where in 2022, for instance, we're expecting close to 7 billion Ghana cedis. But unfortunately, we're only able to raise some 592 million out of that. If you look at 2022 to 2024, the expected revenue from e-levy is around 11.3 billion Ghana cedis, and we've only been able to rake in less than 40% out of this target. And so this is one of the revenue handles that had a lot of prospect, but they didn't really live up to revenue projections.
Are there implications for us, considering that we're still in an IMF program, and this was part of the preconditions? At least that's what we're told by the previous government.
Absolutely. Let's not forget that, in fact, the e-levy was one of the tax handles that helped Ghana to fast-track its IMF program. And so now that levy is gone, it is up to the government to go back to the negotiation table and close that gap. It is not compulsory that e-levy must be in the IMF program, but if you are taking it out, the government must provide alternative events.
And in the budget, the finance minister provided an alternative to plug this particular hole.
So we are looking at the tax refund accounts as one of them that the government is looking. But also, we understand that government is also banging its hopes on the gold board initiative that they believe that could rake in a lot. But this is actually good news for the over 23 million active Momo accounts at the moment. And also, if you are looking at the active agents, more than 400,000 of them possibly will be happy by this news. And so this is the magnitude of the news that we have currently, Evans.
And this is awaiting the president's signature before it becomes law, before the GRA can begin to implement this. So don't hope just yet that tonight, if you send any money via Momo, you would not be charged. You will still be charged until the president sends a signature and puts a signature on that particular piece of paper that has now been approved by Parliament. We're working alliance to get clarity from the Jubilee House on this as to when you can expect this to happen, and the processes towards getting the GRA to begin to implement what Parliament had now resolved to do by consensus. Charles Kwesi Addo speaks for the Mobile Money Agents Association Ghana and joins me right now on the line with a quick reaction to this developing story. Charles, thanks for your time here on the News Night. I'm pretty sure that you and your members have heard about this. You campaigned for this. It is here now. Give me your reaction. Hello, Charles. Okay, we'll get Charles on. We'll also be speaking to Ken Ashigbe. He is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. As you know, their platforms host the transactions as far as the e-levy is concerned. Mr. Ashigbe, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, Evans. So today I'm speaking as the CEO for the EMI Chamber of Ghana. The Chamber of Telecommunications, we are not impacted that much by the e-levy. It's the EMIs that do the mobile money, and so they are impacted directly.
And your reaction to the news tonight that it's gone?
Well, I think definitely this is good news. E-levy was a bad policy. The government did not engage stakeholders before it. We knew that the numbers were not going to come because if you look at the way the industry was structured, we had told the government that they were not going to be able to realize it. This was a tax that had led to, if you look at the rate of growth of the transactions before the e-levy was imposed, it declined when that happened. This was a tax that, just before it was passed, the vice president, who was then driving the digital agenda, had said that they were not going to impose a tax on it. The Minister of Finance made a massive error in bringing that in. It did not generate the revenues that were expected. It actually took value away. There were investments for some fintechs and all of that left the shores of Ghana because of that. So I'm pretty sure that currently what is going to happen is that customers would now have a lot more money to spend. And so what it would happen is that you would see transactions go up. The mobile money agents would see a lot more transactions at their place. Government, the revenues of the EMIs will go up, which means that the corporate income taxes that government would get would also go up. But it would also ginger a lot of economic activity that would then inure to the benefit of all of us. So I think that this is a good thing that has happened. And for me, another thing it also does is that, for a very long time, you have politicians make promises in their manifestos and converting it into policy and into the budget. You either do not happen or take forever to happen. This we have seen happen. And I think it's a good thing that this parliament has done this. And it is important to note that the GRA has also reached out to us. We're just waiting so that we'll do the engagements. There are definitely some technical things that the EMIs would have to do before they'll be able to do this. So once the president assents, then we'll make sure that all our systems then would be ready, and then we'll be able to ensure that the customer gets to benefit from this revocation that has happened.
And from everything we're now hearing from the corridors of power, the president, by close of tonight, would have assented to this particular piece of legislation from Parliament. How quickly can you recalibrate your systems for this not to become effective once the signature is on that document?
It would take a bit of time, but the good thing is that on Friday we're meeting with GRA. So once we meet with GRA, we'll look at all the guidelines and everything that has to go into it. But it's something that as an industry, we've been waiting for it to happen, and we would work together with our technical vendors to make sure that recalibration is done, and then we can set VAT e-levy to zero. But the interesting thing is that these things have knock-on effects on various other things that will happen. So you will need a bit of time to be able to do that. But the commitment from industry is that we will do this as quickly as is technically feasible to be able to do it so that consumers would get to benefit from it.
Dr. Ken Ashigbe, thank you very much. And he is the CEO of the Electronic Money Issuers Chamber, speaking to us on the back of the decision in Parliament to repeal the e-levy. I want to bring in now Charles Kwesi Addo, speaks for the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana. Your reaction, Charles? Hello, Charles. Okay, and I want to hear from you too. 055-1111-997 is the line. I know this is one that affects you and affects your pocket. Now, it has now been passed by Parliament, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Share your thoughts on our many social media platforms to 055-1111-997. Many of you are already joining us with your thoughts via WhatsApp. A few messages I want to share with you. Ordinarily, President Mahama is serving his last term and could have reneged on his promise, but it's refreshing to see that he's keeping his word. In hindsight, it appears that President Mahama meant well all along, but Ghanaians misunderstood him and voted against him in 2016. That's Faya in the United Kingdom, sharing his thoughts on this particular subject. And Paul, who's sending us this from Lighthouse Volta region, says if the legislature has unanimously agreed to scrap some of the nuisance tax, especially the E-Levy emissions tax, it also tells you that this government NDC really mean business and aiming to reset the Ghana we all want. A few of your thoughts there. Why don't you share yours too here on Newsnight? 0551111 is the WhatsApp line. Well, the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, has mounted a strong objection to the minority's accusation that President Mahama's referral of petitions for the Chief Justice removal is politically motivated. John Mahama last night referred 3 petitions calling for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Tokunu to the Council of State for advice. You'll recall that a similar petition under former President Akufo-Addo was dismissed on the grounds that the petitioner, Professor Stephen Kwekwasari, provided no evidence to back his demands. The minority in Parliament have weighed in on the fresh petitions and John Mahama's decision to forward it to the Council of State as a politically motivated decision. Listen to MP for Mensha South, Nanaje Bafewa.
It's difficult to remove politics from that. Difficult because nobody in this country can say that we do not or they are not aware of the commentary that has come from the NDC, irrespective of what they think of the judiciary, irrespective of how they think the judiciary has been unfair to them. We cannot discuss this without also looking at comments by President Mahama himself concerning the judiciary. We can list them at the moment. And so,
are you saying you suspect all these petitions are just, the NDC through the back door trying to get the Chief Justice out?
It cannot be far-fetched.
It cannot be far-fetched.
It cannot be far-fetched. It cannot be far-fetched. That is why I'm saying it's difficult to remove politics from it. But let me use this opportunity to appeal to the Council of State, which is the advisory committee of the President under the Constitution, that let's be careful not to throw our democratic game. It may set us back. It might be a bad precedent. And so if there is a just cause, let's do it. If there isn't a just cause, let's be careful.
Well, Felix Kwakye, who speaks for the government, disagrees.
First of all, the President does not need to make any form of determination in terms of merit. He is merely a conveyor belt, and it is his duty to consult the Council of State and make a decision as to whether or not to move the process forward. So we are at that stage currently, and when that determination is made, then the next steps will be followed as clearly indicated in the Constitution.
Well, what is the expected timeline for the Council of State's review, and what are the next procedural steps if they advise proceeding with the petition?
Well, the Council of State will determine the time that they take to move the process forward. So once they bring in the advice, the President will act accordingly. The Constitution itself anticipates that public office holders, including the President himself, can become the subject of demands for removal based on perceived or alleged wrongdoing. For that reason, the framers of the Constitution put in place rigorous mechanisms to regulate such a process. It is that process that is being followed. It is not the case that once the petition is slapped in, the President proceeds to remove anybody. In fact, the President does not have the power to do so. The Constitution says that it should go through a process involving a committee of persons who should have capacity to make such a determination, including 2 Supreme Court justices. So it is not an arbitrary process based or motivated by any thinking of the President. It is a process laid down by Ghanaian law, which should be followed insofar as every criteria and every threshold is met. So the issue of political motivation does not even arise, because it is not a determination made by the President. It is a determination made by persons who are clearly indicated by the Constitution. The President has received petitions. The President swore an oath before the people of Ghana to abide by the dictates of the Constitution. So if he is required to take a step pursuant to constitutional provisions, he must be allowed to do so. Yes, he may have criticized the Ghanaian judiciary, because the Ghanaian judiciary, like all other public institutions, are subject to criticism. The president of Ghana, President Mahama, himself is subject to criticism. If today he acts in a manner that is believed to breach the constitution, he will be liable to processes to remove him from office.
And Felix Kwachifosu speaks for the government. The sounds there of victims pretty upset following the Idum fire, rejecting a donation of 1,500 bags of rice along with 800 boxes of cooking oil and soap provided by the Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak and Member of Parliament for Asawase in the Ashanti region. I want to bring in my correspondent who has been following this for us. He joins us on the line right now. What really happened there?
Well, Evans, about an hour ago, the Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak, alongside the Ashanti Regional Minister Frank Amwakohini, and other NADMO members were at the Doom PZ area where fire engulfed several shops. They were in there to sympathize with the traders and also make a donation to these affected traders. The minister had inspected the scene. Right after that, decided to engage the media and then briefly go down to where the traders were standing waiting for him, where he had about 3 trucks packed, and that pack, we were told, were full of the items that the minister was bringing in to support the traders with. He indicated that the trucks had 1,500 bags of rice, 800 boxes of oil, and several boxes of soaps that he was donating to the traders. But Evans, after he had made this indication, the traders started to hoot at the minister. But first, let's take a listen to the minister before he had made this donation.
We know people have lost their way, people may not even have what to eat. So we came with 1,500 bags of rice, about 800 cartons of oil, and then about 1,000 cartons of soap that will give it to the association. And then they will just share it. We know it will not last long. And we're also treating the city authority, led by the regional minister, to ensure that the opposite end, which is happens, let's create the access so that we don't wait for another fire to come and then we pretend like ostriches where we know how to solve the problem. We are not willing to solve the problem, but we'll come to sympathize with people. No, I want to be this. My wish is that at least, if no any other place, this place, we shouldn't be coming here that we are coming to sympathize with the people. We should do the right thing so that when fire comes, it can easily be quenched.
So how did this degenerate so quickly into almost a protest? I've seen the videos. The traders were very, very upset.
Well, Evans, yes, what you saw is clearly what had happened in there after the Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak had come down to speak to the traders. After addressing the traders, he asked the NADMO officials to open the 3 big trucks. When the officials opened the trucks, the affected victims got to realize that there were some small boxes of oil, about 800 of them, just as indicated by the minister, and then 1,500 bags of rice. That brought out the agitation, almost turning into a protest. They started hooting at him, rejecting the bags of rice and the donation, which were later sent away. We can listen to some of the sound out there.
So what happens to the items that the minister intended to share?
Well, Evans, the NADMO officials locked up the truck, and we saw a police escort leading the 3 huge trucks with the bags of rice and the oil, moving them out of the PZ area, with the traders still having their chance yempemo to wait. We do not like rice, leaving the scene. So about 30 minutes or so, the trucks were moved out of the place, with the traders still following it with their chance of yempemo.
Thank you very much. And this is something we're keeping an eye on for you here on Newsnight. You can catch the videos on our many social media platforms. It's on Facebook, YouTube, on X, and Instagram as well. Also on TikTok, by the way. So live your Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM. And my colleague George Rafe is joining me right now on the day when that big news has been developing in Parliament, the repeal of E-Levy and 2 other critical taxes that the previous government had introduced introduced, all in a bid to try and salvage the economy. I want to bring in right now the Deputy Finance Minister, Thomas Ampem Nyako, who was on the floor today, shepherding this whole process towards the repeal. He joins us on the line right now. We may have lost him there. We'll get him back on the line for you. One of the things we needed to clear with him very quickly is when you can expect this to take effect. Thomas Ampem Nyako joins us now. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Great. So is this on the president's desk yet?
Oh, no. We just did a number of them. We are still in Parliament working on the tax bills. So I don't think the class would have been able to send it to the president within a couple of minutes. But hopefully by tomorrow, I expect it to be at the presidency.
So if the president ascends tomorrow, and I know that conversations have already begun with the GRA, when do you expect that the next time I send Momo to you or my colleague George, who is taking over pretty shortly, I won't pay that levy?
As soon as the president receives it, I believe that he would sign it immediately. And once the president signs it, the GRA will have to cease the collection of E-Levy. And so we are looking at just a couple of days.
So give or take, you're expecting that, say, by the weekend, this would have taken full effect?
All things being equal, it will depend on how soon the Parliament is able to send the communication to the president. And if the president is in town, I believe that he would quickly sign it, and then the GRA will give effect to it.
From every indication, from what I observed in Parliament, I know you also on your feet, you got this done expeditiously, but with the consent of the minority side too. It didn't come to us as a surprise, did it? Because especially when the E-Levy wasn't the only one going, you also, slashing out and repealing the betting tax also went, and emissions levy also went. These are taxes that they introduced, but they backed you all the way.
Well, they haven't resisted it because they know that it is a popular, it's a very popular action being taken by His Excellency President. President promised that he will repeal this tax when elected. He has been elected and he is walking the talk. I don't think that it is in their interest to fight against this repeal because of how popular it is and how Ghanaians have accepted it. So we are grateful that everything is going on smoothly.
Are these three the only taxes you expect to repeal this year, or we can expect more?
Well, at this time it will be difficult to make any more promises, but as the economy picks up, we wouldn't mind giving more to the citizenry.
And I was talking there in particular reference to the COVID levy, which is part of the general bouquet of...
I'm sorry, I can't hear that.
The COVID levy is one that was also promised to Ghanaians. When should expect that to go?
Well, the COVID levy will be considered alongside the VAT rationalization process that we have committed to do. And so when that process is done, I believe that the COVID will also be removed.
Do you have any timelines for this?
I am looking at towards the end of the year. If we are able to finish with all the rationalization processes, we will do that. President Mahama means everything that he says, and so we are working towards the realization of all the promises that he made to Ghanaians.
Thomas Ampem Nyako, thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. And that day is the Deputy Finance Minister clarifying that you should expect that the piece of legislation that has now been repealed, that bill will go before the President just sometime tomorrow. So you can expect that he will append his signature to it tomorrow. He says all things being equal by the weekend. When you send that Momo, you will not pay the E-Levy.
Right? Because if it goes to the president, let's say tomorrow, and he gives his assent, I don't know the timeline for the Ghana Revenue Authority to also work out these things when it comes to actualizing the implementation of the presidential assent, and
Ken
also
actually joined us earlier and said that they've already begun engagements with the GRA on this, and they had to recalibrate
their systems.
Their systems,
so
exactly.
maybe.
He said they'll do it in shortest possible time. Key question is shortest possible time could be anything from 1 to 1 week, but he is quite certain that this will be done almost immediately.
Maybe playing the devil's advocate. Maybe look forward to next week.
Oh, well, what else do you have in the headlines, George?
Well, coming
up. By
up.
the way, there's more you want to stay with us for this because a few developing stories in court, including lawyers of the former Signals Bureau boss, have gone to court now and have sued the state. We have details for you. We'll be talking to his lawyers. Also, the 40 individuals who were sacked from various state institutions after December 7, because they were employed after December 7, they've also gone to court and taken a class action against the state. We'll hear from them too right after business.
And a tax consultant is looking at this tax being removed, impacting positively on mobile money transactions. I'll be getting you more details on that one. And World Bank advises government to digitize the public sector before the 24-hour economy policy will be a success. We'll be getting you more details on that one. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your offers, essentials, tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, tax consultant Francis Timoboy has indicated that he expects some significant increase in mobile money transactions for the telcos in the coming months. Now, this was after Parliament passed some bills to remove the electronic transaction levy this afternoon.
Great day for anybody who is concerned with formalizing an economy like our own. It is a great day for a cash-light society. If you are interested, you go to some advanced countries, they don't use cash. In that case, you can track what actually the economic activities are. All the assumptions were wrong. We were told that we're going to rake in so much money, over 11 billion. We're told that we're not going to IMF. All of these things never came to pass. So far, I think we raised a little bit close to 4 billion Ghana cedis. So that was a mistake they did, and they all promised scrapping it. Today, we've seen the scrapping. We are happy that digitalization agenda will now continue. We now want to formalize the economy the more, and we'll be able to track proper transactions. I believe anybody who was shying away from E-Levy because of the tax can now go back to their mobile money transactions.
And that is Francis Timobo. He's a tax consultant. However, it is now pending the action by President John Mahama for consumers to start benefiting from this action by Parliament. Earlier on, the Deputy Minister of Finance explained to us that it should get to the President's desk by tomorrow or before the close of this week for that signature to be signed to this law. Then it will move to the Ghana Revenue Authority, and then that communication will be sent to the mobile money operators to cease charging this tax. Now, last year, the total value of mobile money transactions reached more than 3 trillion cedis. Now, some have argued that if this tax wasn't there, we could be getting more than that one. Now, World Bank has urged the government to pursue some public sector reforms to enable the 24-hour economy policy to be a success. The Business Ready 2024 report, which was launched, they revealed that the setting up of business in Ghana is still a challenge for many people. Now, speaking at the launch, the World Bank's country director for Liberia, Ghana, and Sierra Leone, Roberto Bryan, said that the public service must be totally digitized to make this policy work.
So this is precisely where the Be Ready, Business Ready work comes in. It identifies the enabling reforms that will make Ghana's 24-hour economy a vision of reality. Efficient regulations, digitized public services, reliable infrastructure, of course, and a level playing field for all businesses. We had another recent event here a couple of weeks ago on SOE reform that the President presided over, and gave a very clear message about the need to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of state-owned enterprises. And I think that also points to the need to think about how to rebalance public-private in Ghana. The state obviously plays the role to create the enabling.
Now, speaking on the report, Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofusojari, pointed out that some areas that could be adopted to improve the ease of doing business in Ghana.
I'm looking for FDI, I'm looking for exports, and all these will happen when we create the enabling environment. There are some take-homes. We are working on this already, but we've read our reports today. We've received our terminal report. Anytime you get your terminal report, you know where you have done well and you know where you have to improve. Exactly what we will do to ensure that Ghana is business ready for people to invest here.
And that is Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejari. To other stories. And the executive director for the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Ajubo Chama, has reiterated the need for improved agri-financing in the country. Now, she shared these insights with Joy Business during the workshop organized as part of the Chamber's Grand Challenge program.
And it's supposed to support scalable innovation in the agricultural and energy space, as I mentioned before. So today's workshop is just to create awareness, build capacity of potential entrance into the challenge. And once the challenge is opened up, we'd expect people with innovative ideas that would create solutions to current problems. The sizes of farms, that the majority of farms are smallholder farms. How do we get to the stage where we're doing a lot more commercial farming?
Ajubo Chama is the executive director of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. Now, Fidelity Bank says it will analyze and take a decision on the declining interest on T-bills to ensure that customers are not impacted negatively. Managing director at Fidelity Bank, John Lopoli, gave this hint in an interview with journalists after a short media engagement in Accra today.
There's always, at the end of the day, the ability to do loans or drive risk assets. It doesn't happen overnight. You grow it over a period of time. So it's very early days with regards to the drop. Yes, the drop happens, and internally you do your analysis to ensure that it doesn't have a negative impact on both your operations and on your customers. And then you start replanning on how you can actually diversify if it's based on a sustainable position.
Julian Oponi is the managing director of Fidelity Bank Ghana. And that's all for business on News Night.
Thank you, George. Let's do sports now as well.
Yes, Côte d'Ivoire have withdrawn as host for the 2025 Under-20 African Cup of Nations tournament, which was scheduled to take place between April 26 to May 18 of this year. The shocking decision was made public by the Ivorian Football Federation, by the Executive Secretary earlier today, with reports indicating that the tournament has been withdrawn due to some logistical and financial challenges. Sports reporter based in Ivory Coast, John Boafo, has more.
The big news here today in Côte d'Ivoire is that the Under-20 CAF African Cup of Nations is now without a host, with the tournament set to start in exactly a month. In a letter sent to CAF and dated the 25th of March 2025, the Ivorian Federation informed CAF that Ivory Coast was withdrawing as host of the Under-20 AFCON. The reasons are still unclear, but the immediate concern is whether the tournament will still happen and which country will host it.
As John Boafo is based in Ivory Coast. Meanwhile, Ghana Under-20 team is set to participate in this tournament, and they have been preparing in Morocco, engaged in a 4-nation tournament for the event that is set to happen next month. CAF is yet to respond to this and offer details as to which nation will host the tournament. And even just finally, though, the 4 African teams that will participate in this year's FIFA Club World Cup are set to receive a staggering $9.5 million as participation fee for their participation in the tournament, which is set to take place between 14th of June to the 13th of July 2025. The 4 African teams include Al Ahly of Egypt, Esperance of Tunisia, Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa, and Wydad Athletic Club of Morocco. They will all earn the same as the participating class from Asian Football Confederation and Confederation of North Central America and Caribbean Association Football from the huge $1 billion prize money that has been put together for the first edition of the 32 club competition. Yeah, that's it for sports events.
Thank you very much. Now, the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, Cabinet Dubois, and his wife, Angela Boateng, have both sued the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, and the Economic and Organized Crimes Office over a 200 million cedis bail for both of them. My colleague, Latif Idris, is with me in the studio with more on this. Apart from the 200 million CD bail, what else do we know about the bail condition?
So the bail condition, they describe as onerous. Conditions for bail are as follows. The first applicant is to post bail in the sum of 120 million Ghana cedis to be justified. And then the second applicant is to post bail in the sum of 80 million Ghana cedis and also to be justified. And that is the wife of Edu Boahen in this case.
And they claim it's a travesty of justice?
Yes, they claim it's a travesty of justice. And that is to say that it will be a travesty of justice to allow the respondents, the captors of the applicant, to determine the reasonable conditions that are requisite for their bail, given their demonstrated utmost bad faith and unmitigated prejudice in the matter. On the 24th day of March 2025, just before the second respondent spewed out the prejudicial matters against the applicants to the media world, I requested, and here we are talking about the lawyer for Edu Boahen, said he requested from the office of the first respondent to have a confidential engagement with the applicants before they are interrogated by the investigation officers of the first respondent. And here we are talking about IOCO. The officers of the first respondent would not release the applicants from the IOCO cells to sit with me to conduct my professional work. The officers of the first respondent insisted that I should engage the applicant at the counter.
Okay, so those are details that placed before the court.
Yep.
What release are they seeking?
So they are seeking, the first one here is that the upshot is that the respondents have committed a constitutional infraction in denying the applicants their right to counsel and shall continue to do so until the court intervenes in this travesty of justice. Second, the applicant do not even have the powers to interfere with the investigations as the behest of the respondent. The applicants are ready to meet the necessary and reasonable conditions that the Honorable Court may impose on them to ensure that they appear before the respondents to continue their investigations, if any. The applicants are well-meaning Ghanaians couple and are properly circumstanced in society and have responsible individuals who are ready to stand as sureties for their bail. In the premises, the applicant pray the court for bail pending investigations.
So they simply want the court to grant them bail.
Bail, yeah.
They ask the court to vary the bail conditions?
Yeah, they describe it as an onerous one, so they would want some variations by the court.
Okay, thank you, Latif. And we stay in court tonight because the appointments, as you know, were terminated after it was determined that they were employed after the December 7 general elections. But tonight, 40 of those affected are fighting back and have dragged the government to court. State institutions were directed by the Chief of Staff to terminate the appointment of all persons employed after the December elections. My colleague Papania Shale joins me in the studio with details of the reliefs that these 40 individuals are seeking. Papa.
Well, Evans, they are asking for 9 reliefs in all. Firstly, a declaration that neither the President of the Republic nor the Chief of Staff has the power to remove a member of the public services from office, save and except on the grounds specified in Article 191 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Also, a declaration that the directive of the Chief of Staff of the President of the Republic, dated the 10th of February 2025, requested all heads of government institutions, quote, to take the necessary steps to annul or annul any appointments or recruitment made after December 7 is unlawful, null, void, and of no effect. Also, a declaration that the decisions of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th respondents in implementing the said directive of the Chief of Staff are unlawful, null, void, and of no effect. And Evans, also an order of certiorari to bring up and quash the decision of the Chief of Staff complained of in relief 2 above as being of violation of due process, particularly Article 191 of the Constitution. Evans.
Thank you, Papa. You can catch more of this on Joy News Prime. It's at 7 p.m. on the Joy News channel. Papa, I wonder if you've ever tasted African palm weevil.
African palm
weevil.
No, I have heard of, but
Weevil.
never.
Okay.
I don't think I ever tried.
Well, yeah, I know you're not there, but apparently it's a delicacy. And we're hearing from an entomologist at the University of Energy and Natural Resources who is raising awareness about that. They call it akokono in the Akan language. Dr. Jacob Anankwari, coordinator of the Health Insect Project, explains that although the insect is considered a pest while damaging the growing points of palm trees and weakening them, farming it could offer a more sustainable approach to food security with minimal environmental impact. Joy News' Mohammed Nuruddin visited Dr. Anankwari's insect farm in Sunyani and filed this report for our Climate Focus series.
Dr. Jacob Anankwari, an entomologist and lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, says the larvae grow between 21 and 28 days before harvesting.
Once these ones hatch and grow up to 21 to 28 days, they are often ready for the market. So harvesting a few of them. I don't want, some have started weaving cocoons, so I don't want to bother them so much. So you can have a look. If you see a bin like this, it has coconut husks and other, so you see larvae all over. You can see larvae everywhere. I was just harvesting a few of them.
They have a high rate of reproduction, and one bean can harvest between 150 and 180 larvae, weighing around 1 kilogram depending on the size.
So 150 to 180 will be a kilogram depending on the sizes. Because you see, if these ones are much smaller than these ones. Okay, so these are actually ready for the market. This is about the 8th instar stage. So it means these eggs were laid first. Yeah, so each bin has a minimum of 1 kilo. Some have 2 kilos, others have as high as 5 kilograms. And all this depends on the number of adults I have put in each bin. Some have just 3 pairs, others have 2 pairs. But if you have 5 pairs, then you are getting a lot of larvae. Because each female adult can lay as much as 300 eggs in the bins. And they have superior protein and iron content that I will share with you at a different point in time. These insects do not emit greenhouse gases. Only a few groups of insects emit little greenhouse gases. If you compare these to conventional meats like beef, these produce 100 times less greenhouse gases, okay? And then if you also look at the amount of vegetation you need as the palm larvae, you need little space. Look at this little space that I'm using, and I'm producing several kilos per week.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
And just before we go, I want to take you to Salaga in the Savannah region, and it was a key site in the transatlantic slave trade. Countless men, women, and children were captured and sold. In the 17th century, it became a place of unimaginable pain, separation, and loss. As part of our Ghana Month series, we revisit the market's painful legacy and its lasting impact on Ghana's identity. Nana Boachi Yadom reports.
Oh, freedom over me.
From the 16th century, Salaga was one of the leading market centers in West Africa. Salaga was founded in the 16th century Gonja Kingdom before being overrun by Ashanti forces in 1744. The British defeat of the Ashantis during the Third Anglo-Ashanti War in 1874 ended the Ashanti rule over Salaga. However, the British abolition of slavery in the Gold Coast in 1874 to 1875 did not end the Salaga slave market practices in the Gold Coast.
Slaves here abroad from Upper East, Upper West, and then the surrounding villages, led by the slave agent.
The Salaga slave market, though a symbol of human suffering, also represents the enduring spirit of those who were forced into unimaginable circumstances but never lost their will to endure.
For the slave agent, they don't care. Yes, they don't care what you are going through. The only one, at the end of the day, the strong ones. So when you are weak and then they realize you are dying, they actually will leave you in the bush, you die, animal food will come and then feed on your flesh. Yes, and they are fed once in a day. When bringing them, they have little water to drink.
It is through this reflection that people find strength, unity, and the courage to continue shaping a future built on justice, reconciliation, and a collective commitment to ensuring that such horrors are never repeated. For Joy News, My name is Nana Bwachidankwe.
And that's it for News Night tonight. And guess who is here anymore?
Hi.
Strong
Hi,
and
Evans.
sassy.
How are you?
I'm doing great. What are you talking about?
Let me say good evening to you and your listeners. I've always wanted to use that line. But it's Ghana month and we're still celebrating resilient Ghanaian women. Okay. And I'm so excited about tonight and my guest. Evans, I am telling you, if you have ever wanted to give up, because you feel like the world is coming at you doom like that, and you need inspiration
Even
to
the boom boom
challenge to stand up and you definitely want to stay tuned in to our conversation tonight. We're talking resilience, tenacity, survival, overcoming, victory, everything nice and sweet.
You want to stay tuned for that and more?
Yes, you do.